Hello everyone, I'm Charlene and I want to welcome you here to our second SOOC webinar. Today we are going to talk about empathy. I'm going to give you a brief overview on the theory of empathy. Then we will have Mary Holmes, who is going to talk to you about building relationships. Then we will have Veronica, who is going to talk about cool things to do in promoting empathy. We will have Lynn Patterson, who is going to give you a lovely demonstration on baby massage. And finally, we will have Dr. Pauline McClenaghan, who will answer any questions. So at the minute, most families are going through quite a difficult time with the pandemic. We've had many a lockdown fallout. So today we're going to look at how empathy and lots of hugs can help with those relationships in the home. So you just give me a wee second and I'll share the screen for you. Right, so empathy. What is empathy? It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of others. This can be sadness, joy, fear, anxiety, excitement. Just being able to imagine what it's like for the other person or taking time to walk in their shoes. Why is empathy so important? It helps people to connect and build relationships. This is vital in all aspects of our life, be it at home, work, or in the community. It helps conflict resolution when we can see things from the other's point of view. When we are empathic, we are more open-minded, which helps us to challenge our own prejudices. It gives us a sense of social responsibility and promotes a more cooperative and socially competent behaviour. It helps us to understand what motivates others when we can see it from their perspective, including those we do not know. So how does developing empathy help our children? When we are empathic towards our children, we not only demonstrate love and understanding for them, we are modelling behaviour that will benefit them in all aspects of their life also. It helps children manage their emotions and behaviour. It helps maintain child self-esteem, builds in child's resilience, fosters emotional literacy, health and well-being, enables children to establish and maintain meaningful relationships, reduces violent and bullying behaviours as they can relate to the feelings of others, strengthens children against negative peer pressure. They know right from wrong and have the confidence to know their own mind. It facilitates learning and improves school outcomes and promotes creativity and problem solving. So there are three different types of empathy. The first one being cognitive. Knowing what the other person is feeling or being able to look at things from their perspective. It is a level of understanding, knowing what is an appropriate response, yet not actually having the deep emotional involvement. Emotional is the second one. Having the same emotional experience or feeling of distress as the other person. We're able to feel their pain. If someone hurts themselves, sometimes we almost wince at the thought, as you can just imagine the sensation. You're just so in tune with how the person is feeling. Occasionally this can be described as the emotions being contagious. And finally, we have compassionate, understanding and experiencing emotions while also having the desire to help. This incorporates both types of cognitive and emotional empathy. We know that they are feeling, we are experiencing a shared emotion, and we are willing to do anything in order to make the situation better for them. So here we have an American psychologist, Martin Hoffman. He studies development of empathy. He believes that everyone is born with the capacity of feeling empathy and that there are three stages. Stage one, he describes it as global empathy. When emotions are matched or mirrored, it can be involuntary, just like in the hospital. When one newborn baby begins to cry, all the others start. This is matched emotions or sympathy cries. Stage two, egocentric empathy. This usually happens when the child is between 1 and 2 years of age. They have a sense of themselves and respond to others' upset or emotion, usually with a response that would content themselves. Perhaps they can offer their own comforter or bring the child to their parent or caregiver for cuddles and reassurance. The third stage he describes is empathy for another's feelings. Understanding emotions without knowing the person, such as when you get completely engrossed in a sad movie or book where you spend the whole time crying. Then we have Abraham Maslow. He also was an American psychologist, and in 1954 he created the hierarchy of needs. This takes into account everything a person needs in order to reach their full potential, or self-actualization as he describes it. And he sees the stages as physiological, safety, love and belonging, esteem, and when all these are in place, self-actualization can be reached. Carl Rogers also agreed with this, also an American psychologist, but he went on to add, for a person to grow, they needed an environment that provides genuineness, acceptance, and empathy. These all contribute to healthy personalities and relationships. And just as plants, that without sunlight or water, they will not grow. This is known as the humanistic psychology, where a person must know their genuine feelings and act upon them. Empathy just doesn't happen. It is developed through time and modeling. Sometimes it is not evident in parts of society, and people are becoming more disconnected, particularly now in the current climate with the pandemic. However, it is up to us to demonstrate empathy for our children to help it become more innate. Some do's and don'ts in empathy. First steps and do's. Stop what you're doing. Give the person your full attention and be an active listener. Maintain eye contact, body language through contact, through openness, and your facial expressions. Name the feelings they may be experiencing. This will help the children with their emotional vocabulary. Allow them ownership. Give them time to talk, maybe even just be silent, and let them take the lead. Try not to dismiss their feelings. Don't take over the conversation with your own experiences. And try not to be distracted by surroundings such as television, phones, and other people. Don't try to fix it. Try not to overreact or belittle their experience. Next, I'm going to show you a little video, and it's from Brené Brown, who I think sums up empathy perfectly. So just give me a second and we'll get that on for you. Sorry, can you not hear that? Just a second. Try again.
And why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, you climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with "at least." And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, "I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me." Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay, thank you. So that's all from me. I'm going to now pass you over to Mary Holmes, and she is going to talk to you about relationships and empathy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Charlene. I have to say, I just love that wee video. I could watch it time and time again, and it just helps you understand exactly the difference between empathy and sympathy. So I am going to talk to you about relationships and how empathy impacts on it. So if you give me a second, I'm going to share my screen now with you. And hopefully I can find my slide. Yeah, and I'm going to share it now with you. So just take a wee second for it to pop up. And that should be it now, okay? You can see it all right? Happy days. So I am going to look at how empathy impacts on relationships. So beginning at day one and continuing through your child's development, empathy needs to be nurtured. For children, empathy is so important as it's central to their social and emotional development. Empathy is an essential skill because this is what helps us understand our families, our neighbours. In fact, it's what helps us understand people in the world we live in. So when do we actually begin to develop empathy? Believe it or not, it's from the first day we are born. There are key milestones in empathy that can be identified in childhood, sometimes referred to as the ages and stages of empathic development. So this little guy at just 18 hours old will show responsiveness to another baby's crying, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. The next milestone is at 6 months old. Babies begin to use social referencing around this age. What this means is that they look at how you as mum or dad react to someone new, like a visitor, or a new situation. And based on how you react, your baby is learning two major things. The first thing is they are gauging how safe they are. And the second thing is they are learning from you how to be with new people or new situations. This is known as social referencing. And as baby grows older, they continue to take their social cues from us. It's ongoing. It's continuously being absorbed by your baby, what you do in all of these situations. You're actually setting the foundations of how your child will deal with new people and new situations from the get-go. So this means if you are upbeat about meeting others and new situations, you will be providing positive social referencing cues for your child, which is pretty amazing when you're thinking about it. We are actually teaching our children how to react with new people and new situations. So we move on now to the 14-month stage and your toddlers. Toddlers will offer help to others struggling with something. For example, if you drop your shopping, you will have a little helper who will take the greatest of joy knowing they can help. Always, always try to accept your child's help, even if it's not really helpful, because it helps develop positive self-esteem in your child. And of course, it provides a perfect opportunity for nurturing empathy within your child. The next milestone now is at 2 years of age. At this age, children begin to see themselves as a separate person with their own thoughts and ideas, and even triplets. I had to find an excuse to use this picture because I just think it's so cute. By now, children will also start to recognize themselves in the mirror. This is part of a process known as theory of mind. And just as children begin to understand they have their own thoughts, their own ideas, they are learning that others have their own thoughts and ideas also. And this is when the clashes may begin. If you haven't already started talking to your child about how they feel and how others feel, this is the perfect time to start. Veronica will be giving us some great tips on how we can do this in a bit. So the next milestone then is at 4 years of age. Children begin to associate their emotions with the feelings of others. We as parents play a very important role here because we must make sure we validate our children's emotions. Just think for a moment on a time you felt fear, anger, or sadness, and it wasn't recognized by those close to you. Well, fear, anger, and sadness are normal emotions for our children too, with other emotions such as surprise, joy, and trust. By talking to your child about how they are feeling shows them you have empathy for them. You are also respecting their feelings. And you are nurturing and developing your child's skills of empathy. Development will especially be achieved when you talk to your child about how others are feeling also. For example, let's pretend your child takes a toy from their sibling or their little friend. We can all picture the scene. The other child becomes upset. But by asking questions like, how do you think Charlie feels now? You are providing an opportunity for your child to consider his actions and how they've impacted on, in this case, we'll say Charlie. So, right, we'll look now at ages 6 or 7. At this age, a child can now take another person's perspective and offer appropriate help. So another example, picture the schoolyard. A group of children are playing and they see a child with no friends to play with. At this age, they know they should include this child. This refers to what Charlene was saying around cognitive empathy. Emotional empathy means this group of children will feel and empathize on what it is like to have no one to play with. And of course, compassionate empathy means the children will include this child in their play. And the final milestone then in childhood development on empathy is in adolescence or the teenage years. Young teenagers are capable of empathizing on a broader scale on all those big societal issues such as discrimination or homelessness. Do you remember Malala? She was 15 when the Taliban shot her and her friends for attending school simply because they were girls. In October 2014, Malala was named a Nobel Peace Prize winner. She was only 17, becoming the youngest person to receive a Nobel Peace Prize for her work following the shooting and promoting rights to an education for girls. We, of course, are all familiar with the work of Greta Thunberg. She was only 15 when she started her strike for action on climate change outside the Swedish Parliament. So generally, when talking about these milestones in empathy, we tend to focus on relationships that are known as immediate relationships. For example, the relationships the child has with mum, with dad, with brothers, sisters, their friends, teachers, and so on. But now we're going to look at how our relationships with others influence our child's empathic development and respect for others. Just think about this statement. A child's relationship with others is shaped by our relationship with everyone. Look at the family tree. These are typical members in families. We all have our one-to-one relationships with each person, and a huge impact on every child's development are the relationships between each person in their family tree, which is pretty mind-blowing when you sit to try and take it all in. But we can look at it in everyday terms, and it simply means how we talk about the people in our lives and how we behave towards all the people in our lives impacts on our children's development. If we use kind words for those in our lives, our children will use kind words. For a minute, think on the conversations you have with your family, your friends, those you share everything with about the people in your life, especially the ones who annoy you. What does your child hear? I always say, think in the kitchen table conversations. What is your children listening to, or what are they hearing, even though we're not talking to them? Children learn so much about relationships through our relationships with everyone else. So try to be a role model at all times. Children learn how to be with others, not just based on our one-to-one relationship with them, but also on how we treat everyone. A guy called Bronfenbrenner, took me a while to learn how to say his name, looks at just how important this is in children's lives. And by looking at the impact of relationships in society, impact not just in childhood, but throughout all of their life. So you could spend a year studying this socio-ecological model. In fact, people spend their lifetime trying to come up with answers based on this. But I am just going to give you a wee snapshot. Look at all these different places where relationships happen on a daily basis. Consider how you feel in each when you are part of it. For example, at school or church, community groups you belong to, the shops and restaurants you go to. How do you interact with each system or relationship that is within those different areas in society? For example, do you feel that the teachers are empathic to your family's needs? Do you think your community groups are empathic to your family's needs? Or on a grander scale, do you think government or other cultures are empathic to your family's needs? These are huge questions, and I know we are all going to have very different answers. So I'm going to ask you to think about one thing. Would we like all of these systems, all based on human relationships, would we like these relationships to be more empathic to our child's development or to all children's development? I really like this wee quote. It's from Harvard University, and it just says that empathy is at the heart of what it means to be human. It's the foundation for acting ethically, for good relationships of many kinds, for loving well, and for later success in our children. And it's key to preventing bullying and many other forms of cruelty. When we think on life out there, we can just picture so many different situations of cruelty, and it just, we just don't want to be part of that. So going back to Charlene's video, empathy allows us to understand that we don't always have the answers. Being able to listen to our children, providing a shoulder for them to cry on, and giving lots of hugs can be the greatest gift that we can pass on to our children with regards to empathy. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. I thank you for being here, and I'm now going to hand you over to Veronica. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. And Veronica, I will set it up now that you can share the screen.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thanks, Mary.
And there you go. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Veronica, and I'm going to talk to you today about empathy for yourself, your family, during a pandemic, and cool things to help develop empathy. I think Mary's quote was lovely just to finish off. Empathy really is at the heart of everything. So here we're going to first of all look at cool ways and fun ways to develop empathy in young children. So empathy begins with the capacity to take another perspective or to walk in another's shoes. Children are born with this capacity to empathize, but empathy needs to be nurtured to develop and flourish into valuing others' perspectives and people. So how do we nurture and develop this capacity in children? Well, the first thing we can do is empathize with your child. Children learn empathy from experience or empathy towards them. If we take the impact of COVID-19 on your young child, they're not attending preschool or school, they don't get to see their friends, their grandparents, their cousins. There's new rules, restrictions. They're not often allowed to go to the shop with you. They don't normally have the freedom they usually have. But by putting yourself in their shoes, this will help you understand how they are feeling, what they are going through, and how to help them. When we empathize with our children through parental warmth and responsiveness, they are developing secure attachments. If children are truly positive to others, they must feel secure in themselves. This secure attachment is laying down the groundwork for empathy. Those attachments are key to their wanting to adopt our values and to model our behaviour and therefore to building their empathy for others. Empathy can be shown in many ways, as Mary and Charlene have already touched on, and this also includes tuning into the needs of your child, both physical and emotional, understanding and respecting their individual personalities, taking an interest in their lives, and guiding them to do things which reflect who they are as a person and things they will enjoy. One way is simply by getting to know your child more. You could ask questions such as, what did you learn today? Now that they're back at school, they'll have more to tell you. But what did you enjoy about today? Or what did you not like about today? What was your favourite game you played today? Or who did you play with today? The more you know and understand your child, you'll be able to empathise more with them. Take a genuine interest in your child, and this shows your child you care, and this also promotes the connections whilst building empathy. Another way to promote empathy is modelling empathy for others. Children also learn empathy from watching those we notice and we appreciate. They learn how to interact with others by the way we interact with them, by our parenting style, and how we manage our emotions. By watching us and other adults interact, children watch and model, who we notice and appreciate, and who we treat differently. Example, how we interact with people on a daily basis, and how we interact with people from different backgrounds to us. Being a good role model doesn't mean being perfect. It means we acknowledge our mistakes and correct them, as we are only human. We encounter lots of times in our lives where we wish we hadn't said something or we wish we hadn't did something. But the best thing about it is to just correct this mistake. We are actually showing to our child that we were modelling how to correct our mistakes in life, which will promote empathy. An oldie but a goodie pretend game is that you can play is shop. Here you'll be able to role play and acting out how you'd like your child to converse, interact, and empathise with other children. Your child will think it's so cool that you're actually playing with them, playing shop, and they'll love this fun way of promoting empathy. Other ways to promote empathy is like learning more about empathy. There are many ways you can help your child learn and understand more about empathy. Here are a couple. Make caring a priority. For children to be empathetic, compassionate, and respectful towards others, they must know it's an important priority in their parents' eyes. You can do this by sending daily messages of the importance of caring and kindness and your value it is and how much you value it. You can just say that you value it as much as their happiness by saying, the most important thing to me is that you're kind, caring, and you're happy. The next one is to validate the full range of emotions. By using I messages, this models self-awareness. I feel sad when ... or how do you feel when ... You can just adapt this to suit you. Modeling self-awareness is important as it is the ability to tune into your own feelings, thoughts, and actions. It's also about recognizing that how you act affects yourself and others. And this process begins with children starting to be able to recognize and name emotions. A fun way you can do to help your child recognize emotion is to adopt the game charades to act out the emotions. You can see if your child can guess which emotion you're acting out. Another way, you could reverse the roles and you could go and ask your child to make it fun and cool for them to put on their favourite superhero costume and get them to act out the emotions and for you to guess which emotions you're acting out. Or if you don't fancy that, maybe you could just roleplay using toys, books, or other means to demonstrate the causes and consequences of emotions. This moves on to our next point, is give names to feelings. Labeling emotions helps children organize their emotional words, such as, I know you feel angry, but it made your friend feel sad when you took his toy from him. As your child develops and grows, include feelings of disappointment, frustration, fear, etc. By your child knowing a full range of emotions and feelings, they are able to use this to express how they are feeling and to help regulate their emotions and behaviours. Ways you can do this is just play games and role play. To improve your child's ability to recognize emotions and label feelings, is get creative. You could make face masks showing different types of emotions or draw the different emotions on such things as plastic eggs, balloons, or even cards or whatever you have at home. You could create a feelings chart and ask your child to stick the emotion that most represents how they feel on the day through different stages of the day. This will also help a shy child who does not want to talk about their feelings directly. Most importantly, have fun and find out what works best for you and your child. Another way to promote empathy in young children is to encourage reading and gameplay. This helps children understand more about empathy, kindness, and compassion and complex social interaction. There are many books out there, but just two books, for example, is Kindness in My Superpower by Alicia Ortego, and It's Okay to Be Different by Sharon Burton. These books promote social awareness, kindness, and empathy. Social awareness and empathy helps children to cope in new situations and increases their emotional well-being. It helps them recognize how their emotions and behaviour influence their reactions and how to recognize the mood of others and consider different points of view to build positive and diverse relationships. Another way to promote empathy in your children is provide opportunities for your child to practice empathy. Like everything, practice, practice, practice makes perfect. So regularly considering other people's perspectives and circumstances helps make empathy a natural occurrence and helps children get better at tuning into the others' feelings and perspective. You can encourage empathy with family and friends, ask children about their classmates or friends, talk about positive and negative behaviours in real life or on TV, about, example, taking a toy from your child. How could you build on validating emotions and labelling feelings to help your child understand how they feel and ask them to put themselves in their younger siblings' shoes and take their perspective and see how they feel. For example, I know you feel angry that you cannot play with your toy, but it made your younger brother or sister sad when you took his toy from him. Another way is to give your child responsibilities or help to do some tasks around the house. These tasks should be centered on taking care of the family as opposed to looking after just the child himself. Example of this is allowing the child to look after the dog. He could let you know when the dog needs feeding or if the dog is happy, or they could help water the plants or even help you look out for the baby. Another important one is to praise your child when you notice your child being caring and empathetic. By creating opportunities to be empathetic and you're highlighting them and praising them, this will benefit them. They will remember how it felt when they actually received this praise from you, and this will foster the same type of behaviour in the future. Now we're going to look at empathy in the family. So I said earlier about putting yourself in your child's shoes. So this is the same thing, but putting yourself in either your partner's shoes or other family members. Consider the changes and challenges they have encountered due to the pandemic. Your partner may have lost his job or her job, or be grieving from the loss of a family member, or caring even for a family member who is sick. The more you know and the more you ask, this will help you better understand how they are feeling, what they are going through, and how you can help them. Communication is key to promote empathy within the family. Keep talking and listening. Have family meetings or chats with your family members, either as a group or individually. Discuss how the pandemic is affecting them and how their day is going or how their day was. Remember, as Charlie was saying, to be active listening, be present, be compassionate, be understanding, and communicate this back to them. An important point in promoting empathy, and it's an important point in life, is to discuss conflict and how to discuss conflict resolution. Practice with your child to resolve conflicts. Consider a conflict situation that didn't turn out the way you hoped, or a conflict your child experienced, and role play different ways to respond. Give children a voice and encourage them to take the perspective of the other family member. And listen to your child's view and ask them to listen to the other person's point of view. Try to achieve a mutual understanding until they both feel understood. Another way to promote empathy in the family is to create boundaries and encourage family self-care. As you know, we're all living together, we're working together, we're homeschooling not so much anymore because they're back, but this can be, work life and home life is just blurred into one. It can be exhausting, we're stressed, we're irritated, but it's normal to feel like this constant togetherness. So to help kind of ease these restraints, you could make use of the physical space you have in your home. Perhaps you could simply you agree to who's going to use certain parts of the home at certain points of the day. This will simply create a structure and help everybody to have that all-important me time, and also have a cut-off time for work. Also encourage family members to practice self-care. Making time for themselves will help you and your family recharge their batteries. Be self-aware of their own needs and the needs of the other family members. And help them create and this will help them create a sense of control over their lives in a time of such uncertainty where we have no control. Another important point is quality time. We have a lot of quantity time together, but not so much quality. So make quality time with your family, make a point of it. Have a movie night, games night, walk, explore with nature. Take turns in doing things that each family member enjoys. Make this part of your routine. This will help the family keep the connection strong and strengthen relationships through this difficult time. Spending time together as a family is also important in raising kind kids who will be kind to other people. By adopting all of these, by applying opportunities and the tips above, you're building a climate of empathy in home and family life. By working as a family, you are focusing on work together to build a climate that encourages children to be empathetic and understanding with the feelings of family and friends. Now, if we look at self-empathy, not last or not least, but it's very important. The first step in empathizing with others is to empathize with yourself. Self-empathy is simply listening to yourself and being aware of what is happening in you, and by responding to yourself with kindness and understanding in a non-judgmental way. The next point is self-compassion. Self-compassion is simply being compassionate towards yourself. Treat and talk to yourself as you would your best friend if they were in a difficult time, like the current pandemic. You would respond with support, kindness, care, and positive talk. So treat yourself in the exact same way. This is the art of practicing self-compassion towards yourself. It's also important. This will actually help you reduce the stress of COVID-19 and manage your negative emotions. It's very important, as Mary said, to have a positive relationship with ourselves, so we'll be able to have a positive relationship with others and be able to be more empathetic towards others. Okay, so an important point here is actually practicing the self-care for ourselves. Self-care means putting yourself first. It's usually the last thing to do in the parent to-do list, but it should be the first in the parent to-do list. If you aren't well yourself, you aren't able to look after others and help them out. Take time for yourself. Listen to what your body and mind need. The usual self-care activities may be off limits due to the pandemic, as you well know, so try and find new ways to practice self-care. Spend time doing things you love. For example, you might like reading, watching a movie, going for a walk, or even if it just means getting up 10 minutes early in the morning before the whole house wakes and have a cup of tea to yourself. But make it a regular treat. Regular self-care will enable you to come back re-energized and ready to care and be empathetic towards others. It'll also help you cope with the stress from the pandemic and alleviate negative emotions to increase your overall health and well-being. Another point is mindfulness. Mindfulness is huge at the moment, but mindfulness, put simply, is just being present in the moment, being aware of our surroundings, our body, our feelings, our thoughts. By being aware in the present, it allows us to become more mindful of ourselves, which actually allows us to be able to understand other people's experiences and actually allows us to empathize more with others. You can practice mindfulness by meditating or even just practice deep breathing exercises. Plus, this could also act as a new coping strategy for COVID-19 and help to manage stress and lift your mood. Another important point for self-empathy is to stay connected. It is a good idea to keep these connections you normally would. Try and make your virtual world a close replica of your real life as much as possible as you can. For example, if you used to go coffee with your friends or meet up for dinner on a Friday night, do this via the virtual world. By doing this, you are staying connected with others and keeping the lines of social support open to sharing your feelings, talking to others about how you are feeling and experiencing, and listening and supporting others. It is also a source of important fun and laughter, which is so important at the minute to relieve the stress of the pandemic and provides a sense of normality in the midst of this chaos. The next point is to take a break from the news about COVID-19. It is very important to keep abreast of the changes and the government and public health guidance in relation to COVID-19. But it's just as important to take regular breaks from the news about COVID-19 and focus on yourself and others. When you're constantly looking at the news, this actually increases your stress levels, your anxiety levels, and actually will stop you from tuning out. And can you hear me? Just a comment. Yeah, you can hear me. Have me from tuning out, and it will stop you wanting to be empathetic towards others. By taking regular breaks, this will help you reduce your own stress and anxiety levels and prevent empathy burnout, which will help you manage your emotions and will enable you to come back re-energized, enable you to be more empathetic towards others during COVID-19. Just remember, we are living in unprecedented times. You're doing your best and don't compare yourself with others. If Betty next door has new photos up on social media of all the baking, arts and crafts and everything she's doing with the kids, and she looks like she's winning the Mother of the Year award, just ignore it. Betty isn't putting up the newsfeed about the arguments with the children. They might want to do it, the rows with the partner. You just don't know what's going on. Just remember, it's a one-sided view. So ignore the Bettys in your life and focus on you and your family and the positives you have. So by being kind, gentle, and have patience with yourself, and look out for the positives in life. In the midst of all this negativity, there is the positives. By focusing on the positives, it would help build back up our reserves and enable us to be more compassionate and empathetic towards others. And finally, here we're going to look at briefly empathy in a pandemic. In times of uncertainty, it's unbelievable how empathetic we're actually being. We're engaging in so many preventative measures, and it's really empathetic towards others. We're like staying home, we're putting on face masks, we're engaging in social distancing, testing and tracing, and self-isolating if we've any symptoms. These are all acts of empathy. We're actually doing this to protect ourselves, but also we're doing it to protect others. Just remember, we're all going through this together. It's a shared experience, but we're all experiencing this differently. Ways to actually promote empathy in a pandemic, if you want to help out more and help others, is you can join together in supporting others. If you're in a position, you could help out with your neighbour, with their shopping, etc., or if they need a hand. Or you could help out donate food to food banks. It's these simple empathetic acts will not only make you feel good, but will inspire your children to do the same and will provide a lifeline to people who really need it in our communities. And finally, empathy, remind yourself that we will overcome this pandemic. By being empathetic towards ourselves and others, this is at the heart of the way out of this pandemic. It will enable us to rebuild and overcome it together by being considerate of others and being mindful of ourselves so we can help stop COVID-19. Remember, this pandemic will not last forever, but people will remember how other people treated each other. So be kind, be caring, and be empathetic towards each other. Reach out wherever you can, and remember to ask for help if you need it. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for listening. And above, there are just a few tips that will help develop empathy in your young children so that you can raise them to be caring and kind and to promote empathy in the family and to have empathy for yourself. By adopting some of these tips, you're creating a foundation of empathy in your family. The children can build on this empathetic skill throughout their lives and encourage empathetic children to become empathetic adults. Now I'm going to pass you over to our wonderful Lynn, who's going to just show you the next week in the baby massage. So all I can say is have fun and enjoy it. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Veronica. We have heard from our previous speakers how to develop empathy in our children and the importance of doing so. But we're going to strip it right back now to the beginning of developing empathy. And as Veronica had said in her previous talk, that we need to develop secure attachment by connecting with our baby. So one beautiful way to do this is through baby massage. So we have a short demonstration video today for you to view on baby massage, and I hope you enjoy it. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lynn, one of the family visitors with LifeStart, and I also do baby massage. During our last session, we looked at massaging baby's legs. This session, we're going to concentrate on the tummy area, and we'll also look at massage for the relief of colic and wound. So first of all, it's important just to set the scene for you and baby. Those that tuned in the last time, you remember that I mentioned about behavioural states, and the state that we would like baby in ideally is quiet alert. But if baby's suffering from colic or wound, they are not going to be quiet. So under those circumstances, go ahead and massage. If it brings some relief to baby, it'll be doing it well. And remember, we talked about the oils as well. It is recommended that you use cold compressed organic oils, but in my experience I have found that just using ordinary vegetable oil out of the cupboard works just as well. You don't need a lot of oil, just about a penny-sized amount in the palm of your hand, and then pour the oil on. Then we're going to let baby see and hear and smell the oil. And then we're going to ask baby for permission to massage. Is it okay if I massage you today? Yeah, she's very good. She's given permission. So we're going to start with the tummy. And just spread your oil over the tummy area. And we're going to start with resting hands, okay? So the baby knows this is the area that you're going to be working on. And then we're going to do what we call the water wheel. And we're massaging below the rib cage down to the legs. Don't know if you can see too well, baby, here. Rib cage down to the legs. And just alternate your hands. And a firm pressure, but not so much so that it's going to hurt baby or be uncomfortable. And then our water wheel part 2 is where we lift the legs up, and again from rib cage down to legs, rib cage down to legs, and you might get a few sound effects whenever you're doing this one. Okay, and then we're going to use our thumbs to either side of the belly button, okay, and we're just going to press in and out to the sides, in and out to the sides, in and out to the sides. And then we're going to do what's called the sun and moon. And you're going to take your right hand, and around the belly button we're going to draw a clockwise circle. Okay, not too difficult. But then we're going to add in the left hand. So we're still continuing with our right hand and clockwise circles around the belly button. Then we're going to join in the left hand and do half circles. So half circles, full circles, half circles, full circles, half circles, full circles. And then we're going to do your I love yous. And this is right hand side of baby with your 2 fingers. Now remember, it's the right hand side of baby because this is where the bowel is. And we're going I, I, and then the love is L, starting from the left side of baby over to the right, and we do from left to right because this follows the digestive tract. So love, love, and then our U is just right up around the belly button. U, U. Now we'll put that all together. And then we're going to finish the tummy by walking our fingers, just walking gently from left to right and left to right, and that should help with any trapped wind. And that's our tummy area complete. Now we're going to move on now to look at the relief of colic and wind, constipation and pain. So all of these strokes, it's done in 3 successive movements. So 3 strokes, and do all of the strokes 3 times a day for at least 2 weeks. So again, if you need more oil, just a penny-sized amount, and just coat the wee tummy area. And we're going to start again with resting hands. And we're going to start with our water wheel. Remember, rib cage down to legs. Alternate your hands. Rib cage down to legs. Rib cage down to legs. And you do that for 6 times. And then we're going to lift the knees up, push them into the tummy, and again ribs down to legs. And don't forget to use a bit of touch relaxation, just gentle rocking, particularly if baby's very distressed and in a lot of discomfort. So gentle rocking and just touch. And you can just rock. Then we're going to do your sun and moon. Remember the circle, clockwise circle with your right hand. And then we're going to add in our left hand and do a half circle. So full circle right hand, half circle left hand. And again we're going to push your knees up into the wee tummy and hold for 6. Hopefully at this stage you should be getting some sound effects and a bit of relief for baby. And then we're just going to touch, bounce, and rock. And hopefully that will have given baby some relief. So remember to do it at least 3 times a day for at least 2 weeks. And we've had some really good success stories that I've heard with constipation. It works really well. So I hope you've enjoyed this taster session. The next time we'll be looking at the chest and the face and the back. And we are hoping that during the summer months that Priscilla, my co-worker, and myself will be running some baby massage and baby yoga classes for parents that are on the Life Start programme. But we'll keep you posted about that. Okay? Well, thank you very much for tuning in today, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Lynn. That was lovely. And thank you to all our contributors this morning, to Charlene, Mary and Veronica. We have a few minutes left, so I'm going to address a couple of questions that people have emailed in. Sean, he writes, my child does not seem to notice the emotions of others. What can I do? It's often difficult for children to imagine the emotions of other people
because they just haven't had very many life experiences as yet, so they just don't relate. Very young children, as Mary said, struggle to understand that their thoughts and the thoughts about others are different. So they may need some help from you of mind reading. Without knowing what it's like to be helped, they can often struggle to help others. Your demonstrations of perspective taking, of kindness, of sharing and helping with others are all wonderful teaching opportunities. Reading books and making friends also help children practice perspective taking. So all the ideas that Veronica outlined today will all be very useful. So we will be putting our webinars on YouTube after our next one so that you can play it again and look at all those wonderful ideas that Veronica outlined. But remember, it takes time and you need patience because it takes time to learn empathy. Carol, she writes, I'm a wee bit concerned about my sister's child. She seems to be encouraged to see herself as centre of the universe and is uncaring when it comes to others. How can I help my sister see the importance of teaching her child empathy? Unfortunately, we are living in a society and culture that emphasizes individualism and the selfish pursuit of individual interests. And parents are understandably anxious to support their children's self-esteem and positive sense of self in what they perceive as a highly competitive social world. But they sometimes forget that this must be balanced with respecting the feelings and interests of others. I think what the COVID-19 pandemic has clearly demonstrated that we as humans, by our nature, are social beings. And the collectivity, the common good, is important both for our individual society, our individual self, our communities, our society, and even as a species. So even from a totally rationalistic point of view, rather than just an ethical point of view, understanding things from others' point of views and caring for one another has been shown to be in our own mutual self-interest. So important is empathy for human well-being that it is innate, and as Charlene and Mary clearly demonstrated that. Children are born with this innate capacity, but like all innate capacities, they need to be nourished. Even children's brain development is built around relationships. Those neuron pathways in the human brain are built through relationships, and they need to be nurtured or they just wither and fade away. So I think, Carol, you could bring up this subject by talking to your sister about the pandemic and suggesting the importance in this context of teaching your child empathy. And you could emphasize that empathy is not only just good for others, but it really contributes fundamentally to child development. It helps children be better learners, to be more successful at school, to be more successful in life generally, to make more friends, to establish long and supportive relationships, to be better at work, and fundamentally to be better citizens. Our next webinar is taking place on April the 13th, which is a Tuesday. And the next time we'll be focusing on self-esteem. And if you have any questions that you want me to address at that, you can email me at pauline@lifestartfoundation.org, or if you have any questions about today's event. So thank you so much for attending, and I do hope you'll be able to join us the next time. You can watch out for us on Facebook, where you can register. So hope to see you all next time, and it's goodbye from me and goodbye from all the rest of the SOOC team. Bye.